Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. We just can take a couple of minutes as we get hurrying through this busy world we live in, and just take a moment to remember the things that are really important. I've got a good story here I want to read, but before I get to that, I wanted to thank you for your faithfulness. So many of you were involved in our conference last week, our fundamental conference, just as we were reminded why we believe what we believe. Why am I a Baptist? Why do I have a Bible? Why do I read the King James Bible? Why? Why do I have these different sets of beliefs? And there should be a why. It shouldn't just be, well, I feel like it. Feelings can't guide us. But thank you for being involved. It was a great 4-day conference, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we found we got some great young preachers. That was terrific. But along with that, I want to mention in the next few weeks, we've got our Friends Sunday coming up. I hope you'll bring a friend. We're having a breakfast. All the adult classes are bringing food. You can bring food. And we're going to have a big breakfast buffet we're going to set up. And then after the breakfast, we'll have a good church service. And we want you to be there. Hope you'll come. Bring a friend and be a part of that. And the next week, we're having a Roundup Sunday, our Western day. And we're going to have a beard growing contest. We have a best beard contest. We're going to have prizes. We've got guys who started clean shaven and other guys who didn't want to shave. So they're working on their current beard, but they're not about to go clean shaven. And we're just going to have some fun. We came with thoughts of the best beard, the gambler's beard, that whatever a gambler's beard looked like, the old miner's beard. And anyway, so we're going to have some special music, hopefully banjo and a jug and a couple of other guitars and things. So it'll be a fun roundup day in our Western garb. So we're gonna have church, and then we're gonna have a barbecue, and then we're gonna go right into the evening service, which will probably be closer to 1 o'clock. And so don't come at 6:30 because we'll be gone. But we'll have to go church, barbecue, church, and then we're gonna have our victory rally, and that's an annual event where we raise some money for some project that the church needs. And our church has been so faithful to give over the years. I'm so thankful for our church members. This year, our project is a facelift. Our buildings were built, I'm going to guess, about in the 1950s. I knew a nurse when we started the church. She was in the hospital back in the 60s, 70s era. And she was older. And so from what she said, I'm thinking maybe they were built back in the 50s. I don't know for sure, but they're older, and they definitely need some facelift. We could sure use a plaster if you think of praying God to send us somebody that can do plaster work. But so we're going to raise some money before we get to Thanksgiving and Christmas, when we're spending extra money on family and friends and food and gifts and all those kind of things. We just want to put Christ right out first. Before we get to the holidays, where we're probably all going to spend a little extra, let's spend a little extra on the Savior. Let's put His work as a priority. And so that's where we'll start with November. Like in January, we always start the year with missions conference. First thing we do in the year is we gather together the people of God, and we have missionaries visit and watch missionary videos, and then we prayerfully make a commitment. What can I give to missions this year? And it doesn't matter whether it's the widow's mite or whether it's a whole lot of money. The issue is it's between me and God. And wanted to put right at the beginning of the year, let's make sure Jesus is in the budget, not just our tithes, but our offerings. And so we always want to keep Him first as best we can. With that being said, I wanted to mention this song I stumbled across, and it's a song most of us would know. Francis Havergal wrote, "Take my life and let it be." I'll just read the first verse. "Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love, at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my voice and let me sing always only for my King, always only for my King." The third verse she refers to in a letter she wrote. "Take my lips and let them be filled with messages for Thee. Take my silver and my gold. Not a mite would I withhold, not a mite would I withhold." Frances Havergal was born to a preacher in Worcestershire, England. At 7 years old, she was writing poems that were published. Already, her poems were being published. She was very frail of health, a very sickly young girl, and yet with her ill health, she mastered French, German, Italian, Greek, and Hebrew, just like you and I did. And does it ever hit you that there's people smarter than us, or maybe they have more character than us? I don't know what it is, but she was brilliant. Her father was also a hymn writer. Frances became one of the most talented and popular hymn writers in her day, and so this is in the 1870s. Down at when she wrote this song, "Take My Life and Let It Be," it wasn't just poetry, because August of 1874, she wrote a letter to a friend. "The Lord has showed me another little step, and of course I have taken it with extreme delight. Take my silver and my gold" now means shipping off all my ornaments. That would be all of her jewelry and necklaces and earrings or whatever jewelry and type thing she had. Shipping it all off to the church missionary house, including a jewel cabinet that is fit for, this is the parentheses the author added, that was fit for a countess. All will be accepted and disposed of for me. I retain a brooch or two for daily wear. And so here this gal, she says nearly 50 articles are being packed up. I don't think I ever packed a box with such pleasure. Frances Havergal, she died young, I want to say 42, somewhere in there. But she died with a passionate love for God. And, is there anything you and I would wish from our spouse more than a deep, sincere, passionate love? Someone that just says, there's nothing I wouldn't do for you, nothing, no price too high. That is rare, but what a wonderful thing. And see, that's what God has toward us. He gave his son. You couldn't find more love than that. He not only gave his son, he gave his son to be tortured and tormented and mocked and ridiculed and humiliated beyond words and suffer the worst of physical pains. And all that Jesus did to express the Father's love. God so loved the world. And that kind of love, well, Frances Havergal writes, "Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee." The idea that I am going to love you back as best as I know how. And you couldn't find a greater thing to do with your life than to love God. And so as she gave, we want to give, and let's be faithful. Let's give of our time. Let's find a way to serve in the church. Let's give of our time to visit the fatherless and the widows. Let's give of our time to invest in the actual work of God, teaching the Bible and witnessing to people. We ought to always be passing out tracts. And every waitress ought to get a tract. Everybody at a drive-through window ought to get a tract. Grocery store checkers ought to get a tract. The tracts are easy, and we're in such a nice area. No one refuses gospel tracts. I can't remember the last time I met someone that wouldn't take a tract. And so, but teaching the Bible, jails and rest homes, to little boys or teenagers or adults in a Sunday school class, teaching the Word of God. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. What a great, great thought Frances Havergal wrote about. I want to mention in the book of Proverbs, just briefly, in Proverbs 17, just a thought or two that I stumbled across. It says in Proverbs 17, "Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house." Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. I think in the story of David, he had a loyal soldier named Uriah, just a normal guy, but he stood for his king. And there's much in the story you could read in the story of David and Bathsheba. While he's out at war, David notices Bathsheba, Uriah's wife, and ends up being involved with her, and a child is conceived. And to cover his sin, Proverbs says, "He that covereth his sin shall not prosper." And to cover his sin, he brings Uriah home, tries to get him together, but Uriah wouldn't go be with his wife because he said, the Ark of the Covenant and the whole army, they're all out at battle. I'm not going to go home and enjoy being in my house and my family. And he slept on the doorstep, and he would not. Well, anyway, David arranged his murder and then was able to marry Bathsheba and thought he had it all covered. Nathan the prophet comes along and tells a story and says, "Thou art the man." And very difficult time for David. The child died. Bathsheba's heart broke. But the point is this: when you reward evil for good, Uriah was a good man who loved his king and loved his country and served his king faithfully, and David rewarded him evil for good. It says, "Evil shall not depart from his house." And you follow the life. It was after this time, that Absalom rebelled against David. It was down the road. We got Amnon and Tamar, the tragic, horrible story. And one story after another, David had so much hurt and so much evil in his house. And you read in Psalm 51, and you read there in the story of David and Bathsheba, where Nathan, he told him that it's going to be rough. You're forgiven, but it's not going to be a happy trip. And I want to encourage you, never reward evil for good. This crowd of people who will use any means to get gain. They think money is everything. They think possessions makes them happy, and they're miserable already because they're willing to hurt people that have done nothing but love them, and whether it be in a broken marriage or parents and children that are estranged or other relatives. Relative hurt, I think, is probably worse because we expect relatives to love each other. It could be church hurt, could be job, could be a partner in business. We've, over these 43 years together, several times I've dealt with business partners and who did wrong, and one stole from the other one, and almost destroyed people's lives financially. And when someone's done you good, you better be very careful. You better be very careful, because he that rewardeth evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. That doesn't mean you're not saved. It just means you're in for trouble. The ride is going to be difficult. And I just want, as much as I can, to find those verses where God says, do this and I'll bless you. And I think, oh yeah, I want to do that. When he says to forgive those who hurt you and he'll bless you, I'm into that, because I want his blessing. I don't care. Those that hurt me, doesn't matter. I want his blessing. I can forgive them if it's in exchange for the blessings of God. And so he that rewardeth evil for good, let's be very careful. Be good to those people. Just think through the people who've been good to you over the years. Parents, grandparents, teachers, coaches, people, maybe people in the ministry, people who've loved you and loved your family and have tried to do well by you. Let's be very careful to not ever reward them evil for the good they did to us. I often think through all the way from when I got saved, and I think of these key people that did so much for me. And I don't want to forget them, and I want to thank God for them. And especially if they're still alive, if they're around me, I want to thank them. Just a couple of days ago, one of our men that has been as faithful and honorable a man as we've had in our church, and he really has been. He's been honorable beyond words to me, loyal to me, and a help to me. And I said, I just want you to know, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being a part of me making it in the ministry. And his comment was, I was on the line of scrimmage, and you always took care of the quarterback. And I thought, man, I could just hug you. Let's be good to those people who've been good to us. And I think we ought to be good to our enemies. Of course, that's scriptural. But don't reward evil to those who've been good to you. You be careful, especially some of you. Maybe your parents weren't perfect. I mean, most of us had perfect parents. But maybe there's some hurt along the way. You be good to your parents. They brought you into this world. They worked and fed you and cared for you. Let's never reward evil to those who were good to us.